When people are deciding they want to get a divorce, do they have to actually list a reason?
I've been hearing a lot of rumblings. Most states right now are what's called no fault. So when you get divorced, you just check the box, irreconcilable differences. Like, it's just not working. But back in the day, like, California was the first state. I think in 70-something, we went to no-fault divorce. But before that, you have to put a reason that you're getting divorced, whether it was, adultery or whatever. And it was made for a lot of finger pointing, and it also made that whatever the reason was would then determine what the property settlement or the support would be. And so you just had a lot of people making allegations about things. You'd see in the movies, like, a photographer busts into a hotel room and the woman's there in bed and they're taking pictures or whatever. These days with Photoshop, it would kind of be impossible to use that evidence as anything. But I am hearing a lot that many states are trying to go back to what's called a fault regime, which would probably be great for divorce attorneys because we'd all make so much more money just stirring the pot from other people's conflicts. But it would be terrible for most litigants getting divorced. Now, the reason that it's the conservative right thinking about doing it is because they're all about family values and keeping people together, which I don't know if you can put that toothpaste back in the tube in this day and age. If you're not happy, you're not happy. And so staying together is probably not the right answer, particularly because for whatever reason, usually the woman is going to be precluded from getting a divorce if it's a fault state.
Will you explain what no fault or fault states are? Because sometimes I think people hear this and they're like, oh, what's that mean?
Right. Well, so I think right now I think Louisiana you can opt into fault, but almost all the states right now are no fault, meaning judges don't want to hear about all the terrible things that either person did. Every state now is no fault, and what I'm hearing is that they're thinking about changing it. And if they do, it will make divorces much more difficult,
messy,
much more expensive. And also, you try to move through this process amicably so that after it's done, and I say to people all the time, don't say something. You're going to know, if you have kids particularly, you're going to know this person for the rest of your life, not just till your kid turns 18 or graduates from high school. You're going to walk them down the aisle together. You're going to be in the waiting room after they have babies together. You need to figure out a way to remember that this person's your family, and as much as you might dislike them at the moment, you got to find the love somewhere. So I think it will be very difficult if we go back to that. I think it's not a good thing overall, and that's coming from someone who stands to financially benefit from it if it happens. My whole reason for doing this and continuing to work and talking on podcasts like yours is to educate people and make it so that it's more of a discussed subject, more relatable, and something, because it's happening. We have had a divorce rate that hovered around 50% for the past, I think, 15 years in this country. It's happening.
Right.
And if it's happening, how do we do it in a way that makes it less painful, less expensive, and easier to kind of move on to the next chapter, as opposed to making it more ugly and more expensive.
Can you actually go through a divorce that's not very expensive?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got divorce.com. There's also a company called Hello Prenup if you want to do an inexpensive prenuptial agreement or find out about prenuptial agreements before you get married. They're a great resource. But then also, even if you're a person who says, I don't have the time to do it yourself, divorce, whatever, still go see a mediator. We have retired judges. I have very few cases that I actually try in court for like week-long trials because it's prohibitively expensive and we can't get in there. If I wanted to set a case for trial today, March 4th, I probably wouldn't get heard until next year.
Right.
So all that time working up into it, then we're in court all of these days. You can probably work this out. It's not rocket science. I mean, it's not fun, but like I said, there's the four corners, the schedule of assets, debts, income, and expenses. You're dealing with your kids. Isn't there a way that you can figure it out with the help of somebody that knows the law, whether that's 2 lawyers and a retired judge, 1 mediator, however you're doing it, once you have enough information. Hey, this is kind of, I mean, when somebody comes in my office and tells me their things, I'm like, this is probably how it's going to play out. There's some varietals, but pretty much this is how it's going to play out. Why would you let somebody else take the control of your entire situation? Somebody that's sitting up there on the bench that doesn't know you or your family. You know it. He or she knows it. We're going to educate whoever's the neutral in this, and we're going to mediate it out.
Got it. So you're saying try to mediate it.
Totally.
Try not to take it to court.
Totally. And I think any family law attorney that you go see that doesn't say that first is not doing his or her job.